What's going on, everybody? Rob Doster here from the Field of 68. And today we're going to bring you another episode in our NBA Draft Prospect Profile series. These are going to be dropping throughout May and throughout June, a couple a day. So if you do like this content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and do hit that like button. Anything that you can do to interact with these videos, it really does help the channel. It helps more people like you find this content. And since I have you here, make sure you check out our Instagram and TikTok pages. We are going to be pumping out more unique content over there throughout the spring and the summer heading into the 2022-23 college basketball season. Like, for example, did you know that Penny Hardaway was shot when he was in college? I didn't know that. You can find that story right now live on our TikTok and Instagram pages. The links for those are in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into another Field of 68 NBA Draft Prospect Profile. Welcome back to another episode of the 2022 NBA Draft Prospect Profiles for the Field of 68. My name is Rob Doster. I have Jeff Goodman, Stadium Insider, here with me. And on this episode, we are going to be talking about Memphis center Jalen Duren. He's coming off a season where he averaged 12 points, 8 boards, 2.1 blocks, and shot 60% from the floor. He only shot 62.5% from the charity stripe, which is something I'm going to get into in a little bit about here in a minute. But he's 6'11". He's got a 7'5" wingspan. He weighs 250 pounds. And Goodman, how about this? He is the youngest player in this draft class. To put this into context, he is 18 months younger than Chet Holmgren. Talk to me about Jalen Duren, a potential top 10 pick.
I mean, listen, you look at him and he's a man-child. You and I saw him a couple summers ago, actually a summer ago, because he reclassified at the Peach Jam. And we were like, whoa, like the body looks like Alonzo Mourning. That's who he reminds me of body-wise. But I think his game reminds me a little bit of Mourning too. To me, on the highest end, he's Bam Adebayo. That's what he is at the highest end for me. He's not a big-time skill guy, not a guy who's going to step out and make threes. In fact, I'm not sure he made one all year this year. And you alluded to the fact that didn't shoot the ball well from the charity stripe. He's not a big-time skill guy, but what he is a athletic power guy who can catch lobs, guy who can block some shots, rebound. Again, highest end, Bam Adebayo. I think a more likely comparison might be a Dwight Powell type player. I like Duren. I don't like him as much as other people do.
So I think the issue with comparing him to Bam Adebayo, which is I agree with you, that is his best case scenario. The reason why I don't think that he can necessarily get there is that what makes Bam so good and so valuable, one, is his handle and his ability to be a playmaker, right? He averaged 5 assists a game.
Right.
That dude can play small ball 5. He can do a lot of the same things that Draymond Green does that makes him elite. The other thing is he's also switchable. If you want him to guard point guards, he can guard point guards. He can stay in front of anybody. That dude is an absolute freak when it comes to the defensive end of the floor. I think this year wasn't he runner-up for defensive player of the year in the NBA? He was in the mix. He was like top 3.
Yep.
And I just don't know, one, if Jalen Duren is going to be that switchable on the perimeter. Like Bam's probably 6'9", where Jalen Duren is like a legitimate 6'11", 7 foot, 250 pounds as an 18-year-old. And two, Jalen is a better passer than I gave him credit for. He can make a little bit of reads. He can find people, but he is not someone that's going to end up being a 5 assists a game guy. And he's absolutely not someone that can bring the ball up on his own, which brings me to what I do think is kind of the biggest issue with him. Right. And we talked about this quite a bit at Peach Jam last year. That dude has the best physical tools in this draft. I feel very comfortable saying that of any player in this draft. Is his motor always going to run hot? There were times
we saw it. Listen, we saw that first game. The first game we walked in the gym. We were like, I can't wait to see Jalen Duren. We didn't see Jalen Duren because he was on the court, but he did nothing for an entire game. In fact, they pulled him out. I don't think he played most of that second half because he was invisible the first half. Now, again, like you said, I thought his motor was better this year at Memphis, and it'll be better depending on where he ends up in the NBA. But he's still got a ways to go in that end.
Yeah, I thought once things started going well at Memphis, he became their best player, like the guy that they could kind of anchor everything he wanted. Like they were a rugged, defensive, tough-minded, we're going to try to beat you 62-60 kind of a team. and he was the core of their ability to be able to do that. I'm fascinated to see what happens when you get him in a situation where he actually has a point guard on the team instead of whatever point Memphis was trying to play with last season. And you get him in a situation where there's spacing, right? Think about if you have a good point guard and you put him in ball screens and you have shooters on the floor and you run ball screens with him and you have to make a decision. Okay, are we going to stop the dribbler, or are we going to try to find a way to keep somebody from throwing the ball up to the square and letting Jalen Duren go and get it? That's his value. The thing is, do you want to take a guy that is going to be a rim running, shot blocking presence that is probably like a medium to high level starter at the 5 in the NBA that is never going to be like an all-star caliber? I don't think. Is that worth a top 10 pick?
See, I say no, but most people disagree with me. Most people are saying they would take him in the top 10, and some people are saying they would take him as high as 5. I've never been a believer of that. Again, I feel like, as you said, he can be like a Clint Capella type. I feel like that's kind of, Bam, like you said, he's just so versatile on both ends of the court, makes people better, can guard whatever you need him to do. I think Jalen's kind of a little bit more pigeonholed, like Capella is, catching lobs, blocking shots, altering shots, not as wide as Capella is, but doing some of the same things Clint Capella does. It's worth a lot of money in the NBA, but again, you better have 4 dudes who can shoot the hell out of the ball around him.
So here's my comparison for him and what I think that his career arc is probably going to end up looking like, especially early on. Onyeka Okongwu for the Hawks. Onyeka in his second season averaged 8.6 boards, more than an assist, and 1.3 blocks. While we're not really doing anything to space the floor, and not really doing all that much beyond being 6'10" with a long wingspan and super athletic. Onyeka is also entered the NBA a year older than Jalen Duren did. Like, Onyeka is already 21 years old. So that's why I think that you take the chance on him in the top 10. He has a very high floor because what he can be defensively, what he can be as a rim runner, what he could be on the glass. And if he can find a way to kind of develop that shot a little bit or become an effective passer, then all of a sudden you have a guy that could be, I don't want to say an all-star level starter, but a really good starter in the NBA.
Yeah, I will say this. I mean, again, I've talked to some people that know his game very well. And one of the things they'll say is, the basketball IQ. And that's kind of what you're talking about. Needs to get better, that he can make the passes, but he almost predetermines what he's going to do rather than reading the defense and then reacting. So I think that's an area you're going to have to see. But I don't think we ever knew Bam Adebayo was going to be this. Right? So, like, if he's a worker, he'll get better. I think he can be a good NBA player. But again, I really like the top 10 of this draft. Maybe I'm out on a limb here where other people aren't, but I would take 10 guys over Jalen Duren in this draft. That's not to say I don't like him. I like him. I just feel like the NBA has become such a league of skill, and I'm not sure Jalen Duren is a guy from a perspective of being able to make shots, number one, and also being able to make people better and being able to move the basketball, number two. Could he be here's another name for you, like a Robert Williams type for the Celtics, somebody like that. I mean, again, going to get paid, freak athlete. Robert Williams never stays healthy. Hopefully Jalen Duren will stay healthy, but that could be a good comparison for him too. Robert Williams isn't a guy that you're necessarily going to trust like Bam. He's actually a good passer. He's not a guy you're going to go out and let guard point guards necessarily, but good defender, good weak side shot blocker. That may be more of what Jalen Duren ends up being.
Yeah, I think that's his floor to me, which is why I think that there's value with him.
Yep.
And look, I would probably, depending on what team I am, look at him in like that 8 to 12 range. So I'm not saying you have to take him in the top 10. I'm saying that if it's the right fit,
I'd go 8 to 15. For me, it would be more of 8 to 15.
Yeah. He'll be good. He's got some potential, and I think he's got a high floor. It's just When you're 6'11" with a 7'5" wingspan, 250 pounds, and as explosive as he is, you're going to have a job in the NBA for a long time. But listen, this has been the prospect profile of Jalen Duren. Remember, we are rolling these out all through May and all through June. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow our YouTube channel to be able to get all of these. We are going to be doing more than 40 of them. So make sure you follow along. So for Jeff Goodman, Stadium Insider, I'm Rob Doster. We'll see you guys on the next episode.